Let's hop right in. A U.S. District Judge, May A. D'Agostino, has issued a preliminary injunction against the state of New York. Now, why? What's going on here? So this U.S. District Judge issued a preliminary injunction in a case where the Department of Justice challenged a brand new law from the state of New York. So the state of New York put forward a brand new law that says if you are Immigration Customs Enforcement or any federal law enforcement agency, then you are super duper not allowed to wear any kind of a mask because, well, the undertone there being that we really want to make sure that, we can dox you and your family, and all of those instances of violence that have crept up over, I really should say skyrocketed, over the last couple of years in this next Trump administration can continue. So the Department of Justice stepped in and said, you have no right to tell federal law enforcement what to do because of the Supremacy Clause. So the federal judge in this case, again, Judge May D'Agostino, and I'm probably pronouncing the name wrong, I don't care, says that New York Civil Rights Law, Section 101, the Face Covering Act, which restricted law enforcement officers, including federal ones, from wearing face coverings, you can't do that. And it's a temporary injunction, but it's likely to become a permanent ruling. Why? Well, first of all, because federal cases have ruled time and time again so far that the Supremacy Clause means the federal government gets to tell federal law enforcement what to do. So that would be the first section there. There's also the New York Civil Rights Law, Section 102, known as the Identification Act, which means that before any law enforcement does anything, they have to tell you their first, last name, middle name, if they're Hispanic or Italian, their second middle name. If you're the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, your Ojibwe Native American name. If you've got street cred, your rapper name, all of the other kinds of name before you do anything. Essentially, it's like a game of Bop It for police officers mixed with Guess Who. So the federal judge is also saying that everyone except for New York police officers doesn't have to follow that right now. That's the first piece of judicial news. Number 2, Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee, who does not give a flying bleep. There's really no other way to put this guy here. He has now introduced articles of impeachment against federal Judge Allison Burroughs. So he said in a tweet earlier today, for ignoring the Supreme Court of the United States and attempting to force mass migration from Somalia into American communities. So what does this mean? The Supreme Court of the United States ruled earlier this year that the Trump administration has the constitutional right as the executive branch to take away temporary protected status. Temporary protected status means the President of the United States believes that there is a group of people on this beautiful planet that are having some really hard times. And there is a political, economic, moral, ethical, or United States forward, which means imperial reason, for these individuals to be granted temporary protected status in the United States to work and to live and to be sheltered from a number of things. So what the Biden administration did is they started handing out temporary protected statuses like a sample provider at Costco. Anyone and everybody. Like Oprah, you get TPS, you get TPS, everybody gets TPS. And of course, all of the libs in the country said, oh, it's amazing, it's incredible. And then the Supreme Court ruled, yeah, well, if one president has the ability to grant temporary protected status, another president has the ability and the authority to take that away. And so you've seen Republican Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio get really upset that Haitians have had their temporary protected status ended. Other ethnicities going all the way back to, I should say, nationalities rather than ethnicities. Other nationalities going all the way back to the George H.W. Bush era are now getting their protected statuses ended because it's temporary. And so the United States said, hey, you in Somalia, you can go back as well. And there are also some national security concerns. So this Judge Allison Burroughs, and here's what she looks like. So imagine, for those of you who are over on the radio, take the typical left-wing Karen, add Elvis Presley's hair, and you've got it. That's it. And this particular individual had suggested that the United States had a duty to give the Somalian people place in the United States, and they couldn't be removed because Donald Trump was being a big, stinky, mean, nasty racist or something or other there. An interesting move, for sure. Not entirely sure what it is that is the plan here for a lot of these judges. Now, again, I do want to make this perfectly clear here. At present, in order for a federal judge to be impeached, Article 3 judges, including Supreme Court justices, can be impeached by the House of Representatives and removed by the Senate for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. They hold office during good behavior, and then the impeachment is the exclusive constitutional method for any court removing them. So what this means is that the House has to bring them before the committee and then before the House itself. There's an investigation, and then the judge faces a vote of impeachment. Once in committee and then once before the House. And then if that judge is impeached, they then go before the Senate for trial and conviction. And if they are convicted by 2/3 of the senators present, then they are to be removed. Now, this one little interesting piece here, there's no judicial review of the Senate's trial procedures or the merits of conviction in this context. And it's kind of uncharted territory. So it'll be interesting to see how the House moves forward with bringing this federal justice before the House of Representatives. Now, as a quick note here, James Percival, he's the Homeland Security General Counsel, said on August 31st, quote, Judge Alison Burroughs entered yet another order preventing the termination of Somalia temporary protected status. There is no serious debate about what is going on in these cases, defiance, obstruction, and delay. They haven't issued a specific lawsuit yet against that federal judge. I believe the Supreme Court would need to weigh in here. Now, if states could sue other states, then this would be an immediate Supreme Court decision. But the Supreme Court has just ruled, or I should say, has just set policy by Chief Justice John Roberts that the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear state versus state lawsuits. Which is really silly, because if the Supreme Court isn't going to hear a lawsuit between two states, who's going to hear the case? Judge Judy? I would watch a Judge Judy case of, for example, Florida suing the state of Wisconsin or Minneapolis. Now, this brings us over to, at last, speaking of kind of the Middle Eastern migrant-forward countries, to the flip-flop situation in the Middle East. So on Saturday at 9:05 p.m. Eastern, the President of the United States sent out a truth and said after all of this lead up that the U.S., after a huge series of strikes, was going to go in with Israel and other Gulf state allies and was going to target power plant infrastructure in Iran, all over the country. So the President then at 9:05 p.m. sent out this truth, quote, the USA is locked and loaded and ready to go against the Islamic Republic of Iran at levels of military terror, strength, and power not seen since World War II. Despite this, we have just been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries, go ahead and put your pin in that one, we'll come back to it, to hold off any attack that the perimeters of a deal has been agreed to. I think the President meant parameters there. That would include the immediate, complete, and total, in all caps, opening of the Hormuz Strait and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. Based on this request, I've agreed, for the future benefit of the world and likewise the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran, to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. And then he says, the country of Israel joins me in this commitment. Get to work, everybody, and get it done. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Radio crew, we have to send you guys over to the commercial break. We're going to continue over here on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right, so I'm aware there are what appear to be a couple of issues over on the live stream side. I'm not sure what's going on over there. We're kind of keeping an eye on things, but if for some reason that stream dropped, we're going to keep as close a look on it as we can. Now, moving forward here, the president's statement surprised, at least officially, the nation of Israel. A couple of individuals spoke to media and said, we have no idea what he's necessarily talking about. Maybe not quite sure. The President of the United States then followed up today, this morning at 10:30 a.m. with a different tweet. So reportedly what happened is that Qatar and a couple of other nations reached out and said, give him one last chance. Come on, can't you give him one last chance? And Donald Trump said, you're pulling my leg, but we'll see one last time. And it actually is more like time after time, because we've seen this movie before, have we not? So the President of the United States said, quote, Iranian leadership is unbelievably duplicitous. said they ask for a meeting. Some would say beg. Talks begin with more scheduled in the immediate future. And they say openly and proudly that they're not having any discussions, that nothing is being talked about, and that they are only dealing with Oman. Then they go on to give their usual blather in saying the Strait of Hormuz will be operated powerfully by them when it is already completely controlled by the U.S. Navy and our blockade, or as some say, the United States wall of steel. Nothing gets through to Iran unless we want to, and nothing will get through unless a deal or total surrender is accomplished. And then he talks about Iran and a nuclear weapon. The President of the United States also talked about this today with press. Here you go.
Are the talks with Iran now off and are airstrikes back
they're on? They're going on right now. It's an amazing thing. We have a little problem with Iran because we have many talks and we'll say we have or we don't have. You know, we're straight about it. But they deny, but they're not denying it now. They just put out a statement not denying it. But for some reason, they, when they're talking, they don't like saying that they're talking. So I say, wait, we're in talks. Big deal. We're in talks. And they'll sometimes deny it, even though they spend hours and hours together talking. No, the talks are going along. We're going to hit them very hard yesterday, very, very hard, harder than any attack. I think I can say, General, from a point of knowledge, any attack since World War II. That's pretty big. And we were set to go, and they called. And in addition, Saudi Arabia called, and UAE called, Qatar called. I called some numerous people. Not, I don't want to use the word begging, but some were. In particular, Iran did not want to be hit. And they said, we want to talk. We want to talk about the Strait, but more importantly, from my standpoint, we want to talk about the denuclearization of Iran, because it's what it's all about. This is why I'm doing this. And it should have been done. It's now 50 years. We keep saying 47 years, but 3 years have gone by. But it's for 50 years that other presidents should have been doing or other countries. Didn't have to be us, but other countries. And nobody did it, and it was time, and we hit them hard with the B-2s more than a year ago now, and that knocked out their capability, their potential capability, and we've done a great job. But
so the President of the United States clearly here is struggling just a little bit here. And the reason he's struggling, again, just a little bit here, is that the other kind of powers in the Gulf came one more time and said either we're going to do it, we're not going to do it, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, we're not quite sure. And then the President of the United States said, all right, one more time. And a lot of the global kind of economic indicators don't really suggest a lot of upward or downward momentum, meaning that people have kind of accepted this back and forth as the new norm. And it's strange. I'm not quite sure as to whether or not the President of the United States is going to carry forward another series of strikes. No one is, because it doesn't appear that there's been a decision in place just yet. The radio crew is coming back from their commercial break to join us. Radio crew, welcome back from the commercial break. So right now, as far as we know, there appear to be a couple of Kuwaiti strikes from the Iranians. We're not sure yet whether or not the Al Doha military base in northern Kuwait has been hit. There are a couple of different state news and independent news outlets that are reporting Iranian drone strikes on U.S. assets in Kuwait. However, the President of the United States hasn't made it clear yet what the next couple of steps are. He says we might. He says that we might not. It isn't quite clear if there's any kind of a deal that's in the works here. Again, probably not. The Iranians have immediately said no. The President of the United States has gone after oil companies who are keeping some of their prices high. Here was the President talking about that today.
And Chevron, Integrated Oil U.S., just announced record profits second quarter. Unbelievable. For Exxon, for instance, 14 billion highest they've had in over a decade. For Chevron for the quarter, highest in history.
By 12 times.
On the back.
You saw that?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. On the backs.
I don't like it.
Workers paying higher gas.
Yeah.
They're
making too much money. Okay. Based on a shortage, they're making too much money. I don't like it. And I should be the last one to say, because I'm a big free enterprise guy, nobody bigger. And, you know, you're going to see oil when we're finished with Iran, you're going to see the prices drop through the floor.
Now, that last part, that one linchpin there is true, and I've said this from the very beginning. It is, in fact, a gamble. That doesn't make it a bad move. That doesn't make it a good move. It is a gamble. The issue that the president is having here is that it is not a follow-through. You are going to have negative articles one way or the other. There are a lot of individuals right now who are suggesting that they are terrified of collateral damage and accusations of war crimes. Either finish it or don't. But as you get closer and closer and closer to the midterms, there is less time for a recovery, for an economic surge to take place, which there will be. Once this is over, once you start to see balkanization, or once you start to see some kind of a change, once there is something that is dropped through the building of the Iranian parliament, and there's no one left to be the head of leadership, that is a different set that the United States can then suggest as a meeting of the objectives. But it hasn't happened yet. And until it effectively happens, we can say, oh, we're going to do it. Oh, we're not going to do it. Oh, we're going to do it. It needs to be one or the other. And of course, the average American understands you're not going to see any kind of a deal. Now, another thing that the average American understands and understands quite clearly is that the situation in the Europe migrant crisis it's just not slowing down. It's not slowing down. And the reason it's not slowing down is because countries all throughout Europe and many of the liberal parliaments and legislatures have made it clear that they believe that if you are a country that is successful, then you owe it to the world blank check. So whether it's the United States and believing, well, USAID means that we have to provide condoms to people in Nepal. Or if you're in Europe saying, well, we need to bring in all of these migrants. I mean, look at these war-torn countries. After all, only really good people would flee a country or leave a country and come here. It's not like as though they are saying things like, I'm coming here for a free house and only a free house. Or
I'm here for my money and my free house.
Okay, all right, maybe they're saying that. But really, come on, guys. We just need to think about the children and also that's really the issue here. This is only going to get worse. So the Pope weighed in over the weekend and was incredibly lackluster. I know, shock and surprise. A couple of other Europeans who are trying to do the centrist game are suggesting, well, this is not good, but we don't really know what kind of bad it is. And near the border of Ceuta, again, Spanish territory in North Africa, still have fires and invaders, again, the military-aged males. I'm not seeing the old women and little children and pregnant women that are saddling up to the border begging for things. That's not what's happening here. Not at all. Now, there have been some actions, at least, taken by the Europeans. Some of the European responses. Again, we told you how in Italy, they have begun increasing border security, which is really not supposed to be a thing, with their European Union kind of flank over to their west against France, because France is about as useful as a splinter in a lollipop. And then, of course, you have Austria doing some of the same stuff. Poland is totally fine because, again, they've stopped all of this kind of nonsense years ago. A member of Parliament, Chris Philip of the United Kingdom, did go over to northern France and started confronting some of the French women, part of those nonprofit NGO organizations, who are helping migrants into large boats to sail over to the UK. And he says, this is illegal, right? And they give him the middle finger and cuss him out in French because they're not going to hold the migrants. They just believe that you should.
So you can see these NGO workers here who have been helping the illegal immigrants during their journey, now very happy apparently. Guys, est-ce que vous parlez anglais? Est-ce que vous parlez anglais?
No.
It's a public place. It's a public place. C'est un lieu public, no? You're facilitating illegal immigration, madam. Beware, this is a criminal offence. It's a criminal offence.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there are laws in place. They don't question why those laws might need to be there. They know that those laws are racist, and if you question them about it, you're just not being humanitarian enough about it or whatever. A really weird way to address it. This is, by the way, how Europe is going to end up a lot like South America. What you see right now in South America is with every single presidential election, with the exception of Brazil, you're seeing countries go far to the right. And you are seeing presidents that come in and are given essentially kinds of emergency powers to arrest a lot of criminals. Again, military-aged men, not pregnant women with children. Oh, the pearl clutching at hand. What instead you are going to see in the United Kingdom is a very, very different approach. A very different approach that will likely end with the Reform Party getting power. Now, I don't know what you actually will see once that parliament takes its shape. It'll be a little bit, though, because right now, of course, we're not really in that election season heading in for the UK. Of course, Spain, other countries are dealing with this in their own special ways. The US has had an interesting response so far to the crisis over in Europe. So first of all, Nick Shirley, independent journalist, he went over to Ceuta, walking around the street.
Not like dogs.
People screaming at him, cut the camera. Screaming, come here.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.
Guy grabs a glass bottle from the garbage, hurls it at him. He's running because now there are individuals that are beginning to chase him with knives.
Queso! Look, he's got the rocks now. He's throwing rocks. Oh, shit. They're throwing rocks.
Man, chance I'm going to stab both of you. That's in Arabic. Pulls out a knife, chasing after him. Now, a couple of things here really, really quickly, and I want to make this clear. Don't do this. Don't do this. It's not worth the safety. I understand the importance of independent journalism. I have been to a couple of rather unsafe places and situations myself. Don't do this. Don't do this. I highly do not recommend it. It is a very unstable area. The State Department, under the direction of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has issued a warning to Americans essentially to stay out of Africa and the Middle East. Because the Islamic migrants be crazy. Don't be there. Don't play around these kind of games. It's not worth it. Again, it would be a horrible, horrible situation if one of these individuals did, in fact, catch up to Shirley. And this is, by the way, becoming a pretty serious issue, not just in Spain, but at home. Before I mention that, though, I haven't talked about all of the response. The weird kind of horseshoe to the left and the right, and I say the right loosely, but some of like Thomas Massey's crew, including a lady, man, I don't know, there's a big old Adam's apple on this one, but an individual, let's say, by the name of D.D. Watson, says that, well, the real issue in Spain is it's Republicans from the U.S. and Donald Trump, and also, of course, the Jews. The Jews are all afoot here. We're going to talk about this here on the show a little bit more. Radio crew, we have to send you to the commercial break. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, as I was saying, so Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, pointed out that there's a pretty huge correlation with the migration invasion of the United States under the 4 years of Biden, and then talked about Spain. And then the individuals who wear lots of aluminum foil and chew on their own elbows stepped out and started saying, Republicans and Trump are responsible for manufacturing this chaos. Republicans passed a bill giving Morocco $20 million just weeks before the invasion, and pointed out this one particular bill and said also in the bill, it says that there's this one little tiny line where in a massive, incredibly huge bill, some random representative, we don't know if it's a Republican or a Democrat who put this in there because there's a massive amendment process, where it says also, we don't really believe that Spain is long-term holder of any imperial territories or properties, which, by the way, is kind of an opinion the U.S. has had since the end of World War II. That's been the U.S. position. There's just one issue here, and I love all of this kind of nonsense as much as the next guy. The U.S. never passed this bill. Nope. Didn't pass this bill at all. Not even a little. It's a 2027 appropriations bill passed by the House that directs $40 million in assistance, vaguely, noting long-standing claims to Spanish enclaves. It hasn't become law. The funds have not been sent. Nothing at all here is related whatsoever. Now, you've seen the same over on the left as well. Hassan Piker just openly lying about this again, saying, you know who it really is? It's the Jews. It's the Jews who are doing it. Here's Hassan Piker.
Earlier, you mentioned Morocco. What do you mean Israel caused it? Israel and America got the Moroccan government to send like 40,000 people into Spanish-administered territory. It's not even on some conspiracy either. Like the New York Times is openly covering it as such. You know?
Are they? Is the New York Times reporting that Israel is behind it all?
I mean, it was classic Israel in the way that they did it. in the shameless way that they took ownership over it, that even the New York Times was like, okay, well, now we have to investigate what's actually going on here, you know?
Okay, so here's the issue. The New York Times didn't report that at all. Not even a little. The actual New York Times reporting here, what does the New York Times suggest? That, and I want to make sure I get the actual lettering here. Yep, the New York Times, in fact, reported quite the opposite. Reported that the Israelis have largely condemned and mocked Spain for having open migrant policies. Additionally, the New York Times reported that Moroccan police urged migrants to cross into Ceuta amid the social media rumors of an open border. Doesn't attribute any involvement to the Israel or to the U.S. I mean, and they will tell you very clearly, why are they flooding into Western countries?
I'm here for my money and my free house.
That's it.
It's my dream.
See, there's his rationale. Oh, it's the dream. They'll be very, very honest with you. Now, again, I also don't really know what the Israelis would have to gain by ceding France a nuclear power and Spain and other European countries to the Muslim. I'm not sure exactly if there's any logic. There's not logic in that. But again, people are going to be rather ridiculous. Now, this kind of migrant violence and such, this is not just limited to Europe. Of course, Jake Lang posting this over in Dearborn, Michigan in the United States. Well, yeah, the same kind of migrant behavior is going on. So it's just a real lovely time. Radio crew, welcome back from the commercial break here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now we have a little bit more to talk about in the United States. So the Dearborn police have just now released drone footage of, the Islamic individuals in Dearborn, Michigan, trying to stone Jake Lang. I love the caption there. Anti-Islam agitator. Oh, he's agitator. Oh, he's mocking this event. Again, they're trying to stone him because he's speaking. Yes. But again, if you point out any of this, then you're very deeply Islamophobic or something along those lines. It's very, very strange. And the entire DSA, like pro-Islamic wing, is not getting any easier for those over on the left side of the aisle in any way, shape, or form, because it turns out that when you promise everyone everything, which is what, again, the DSA, the socialists here in the country are trying to do, huge primary tomorrow in Michigan, which is where we'll see Abdul El-Sayed face off against Haley Stevens. In New York, Zohran Mamdani, who, again, is the new champion, the new leader of the left. He's got the Islam with it. He's got a little bit of the activism smarminess to him. And then he has all of the socialist promises from Apron Strings, where he says, oh, I'm for workers. You know, being a son of a professor and a producer. And again, from Uganda, he brings over this, well, you should be getting free healthcare and free childcare and free grocery stores because food is a human right. And you shouldn't have to show an ID for any of it. Not even for a single thing. Well, turns out that, unfortunately, the ID thing may have been a bit of a lie. So Zohran Mamdani getting ready to announce his super brand new line of grocery stores. They're opening up their state run, and he's going to institute a locked in 30 to 40% discount, no matter what, just boom, for you. So he was asked, hey, how are you going to stop people coming in from outside of New York and using these benefits that are only for New Yorkers? Some of you may be following where this is going. Here's Mamdani's response.
How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass.
Now, hang on a second here. Hang on. He said, he's assuming that if these resources are provided, that some might try to take advantage of the system. And that's very strange because I was told that people don't do this. And if they are, they're white. You would never. I mean, have you seen all of the people trying to resell tickets outside an arena right before the event takes place? Those are all like straight white businessmen, all of them, every last one. Strange.
it over to our EDC head, G-Pack, to add some additional details.
So then he immediately jumps away from the microphone. He's like, I'm going to pivot to this one other person who can maybe answer this question. And here it comes.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing.
Hang on there. Don't just rush past. Don't just gloss over that. You're going to target New Yorkers by having some type of, she calls it library card system. So some kind of identification card that identifies you as a New Yorker.
And also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So
it's focused on everyday New Yorkers. So what you're telling me is that New Yorkers have voted for these benefits, and that this money is coming from the New York state budget and the New York City budget to pay for these things. Now, we'll talk about how these grocery stores are getting accomplished. I love that the argument so far that this is what's going to fix capitalism, when what Mamdani has done for some of these stores already is said, we're not going to make them follow like any of the regulations that cost other grocery stores and bodegas so much that immigrant bodega owners in New York City are now suing Mamdani because they're like, wait a minute, I came to this country, I'm running a shop here from my various part of the world, whether it's in, again, Little Italy or in Little Bangladesh or wherever Mamdani's making up neighborhoods in New York. And how come your new state-run grocery store doesn't have to pay any of these fees? How come your state-run grocery store doesn't have to have any of these regulations? And on top of it, you're telling me they need a voter ID so that you can prove you're in New York? Interesting. Can you imagine a group of people wanting, let's say, benefits, whether they're city, state, federal benefits, perhaps, only going to people who are in the country and supposed to be there? Oh, strange. So like I, as a Hoosier, thank God, taking a trip to New York, and staying in a New York hotel that is 12 foot by 10 foot, which is like a 4-bedroom, 3-bath apartment in New York. And I go to one of these grocery stores, I couldn't show my ID. I can't just walk up and say, oh, hi, I'm Tony. And they're going to be like, yeah, but it says Indiana here. I'm not going to be able to go there. Interesting concept. Strange.
So we are mindful of that. And so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that that does not happen.
Incredible. By the way, just as a little prediction here, so you can go ahead and get out the jar, these will eventually become ration cards as well. They will. So you'll have like your punch outs for a certain amount of meat you can get a week, and then your grains and maybe 18 grams of sugar, double plus good to that. So exciting stuff. And of course, the president mocking this later because it's ridiculous. You, of course, understand that the voter ID argument comes here really, really quickly.
Mr. President, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is requiring an ID to access his government-run grocery stores. What then is your message to Democrats who do not want to pass the Save America Act and ensure, ID at the ballot box?
This was just announced. Yeah. I heard about it. Yeah. Well, I wish they'd have an ID to access the voting booth. They don't want to access the voting booth with any identification. We want voter ID, and we want proof of citizenship.
Now, the left immediately flipped out at this because they said, they're not requiring anyone to go get a passport to go to this New York store like the Save America Act. So I thought here on the show, we would do a very, very quick, according to the bill text fact check. According to the bill itself, you would need either a kind of documentation that shows real ID or it's a federal up-to-date database recognized ID like that you would need to fly, which in all 50 states is obtainable very, very easily. Now, I will admit that in New York, it is technically more expensive to get a driver's license. It's like $60. In Indiana, it's like $17. However, there is a real ID that you can get in New York City, a real ID for like less than $10, and you can probably get the fee waived. And then you also need some kind of proof of citizenship. This would be a birth certificate. Now, this is where the left will claim that if a woman changes her name in marriage, no one ever thought of that before, then women are going to be too stupid. So they have two classes of people who are too stupid to get ID. They say black and brown people are too dumb and poor to go actually get a driver's license. No one can afford to get an ID for either $17 in my state or $10 or free in New York. So they're too dumb and too poor to do that. And then the women are too stupid and dumb. And I don't know what, like just two dumb housewife women to actually have their birth certificate. And then this really cool thing, it's called a marriage license. So this amazing thing, When you get married, you tell the state, hey, I'm getting married and I'm changing my last name. So then you call this really cool government organization that's not cool at all. It's called the Social Security Administration. And you say, hi, my name is Janine McAllister, and I'm up in Chicago, and I changed my name from Janine McAllister to Janine Graves. And so I'm gonna need to get that changed. And so the Social Security Administration will do the same thing they did with my wife and millions of other married women around the country. And they'll say, okay, send us birth certificate and then the marriage license or the marriage certificate. And hesto presto, you're good to go. Now, the left says, well, what, women are supposed to keep those two documents forever? Yeah. You know, you're not supposed to shred your marriage certificate or license. It's not a used napkin. It's not a paper plate. But if you just so happen, you poor unfortunate soul, you lose your birth certificate. Many have. I don't even necessarily know where my original is. I did this cool thing. I called the Henry County, Indiana Health Department, which is where I was born, said, hi, I was born at Henry County Memorial Hospital in Newcastle, Indiana on this date in this year. Can I have another copy of my birth certificate, please? And I provided them my SOCH. And you know what happened? I paid $4, 4 whole dollarinos. That can't even buy you a meal at Taco Bell anymore. And I got ID with my birth certificate. Presto. In New York, it's the same thing. It's like $10 in New York to get a birth certificate. So a grand total of $20 to vote. That's it. That's the Save America Act. So there's your fact check. There you go. There's the actual, none of this requires a passport. Now you can go get a passport. It's not hard to get a passport. You get a photo taken, you fill out a form, and in like 4 to 6 weeks, boom, passport. And then it's all in one ID. I know, just crazy how very basic reading works. I know it's exciting. I will remind you, by the way, Trump mocked Mamdani for requiring ID to shovel snow for the city. That was also true then, and it also, in many cases, required a kind of ID that you need a birth certificate to get.
And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork.
Oh, your paperwork. Oh, you got to show up with your paperwork? Like multiple pieces of paper? Well, I don't know how black people or brown people or women, whatever a woman is. I don't know the definition. Katanji Brown Jackson hasn't told me yet. You know what, actually? Let's just say that this is probably like the Jews' fault or something. And we'll call it a day. Sound fair, I guess, whatever Mamdani's logic is. Radio crew will send you to the commercial break. Any of you who can renew your ID while we're gone for your commercial break, I don't know what we'll do. I'll give you something free from the merch store. Send it in with proof to TonyKinnett.com. See you guys in a second. Okay, boys and girls, let's talk a little bit about the rest of the party, because there's some people inside the city that are mad at Zohran. This is a Fox News report of these other city councilmen.
Frustration appears to be building from several different directions. Democratic leaders in New York City's outer boroughs say they believe that Mayor Zohran Mamdani is ignoring them, and one borough president even suggests that the Democratic Socialist of America is a racist group.
No. Oh, man. I happen to remember that exactly 1 week ago, I said that a huge danger to socialists in the Democrat Party was that a lot of black voters felt abandoned. And a bunch of Charmin soft individuals freaked out and called that race baiting because they are cowardly thin people. And boy, if it isn't another story showing that black voters in the Democrat Party of their own accord say, I feel abandoned by the socialist. Oh, who could have predicted such a thing?
Queensboro President Donovan Richards shared a 2021 survey by the DSA on X, claiming that 85% of members are white. The DSA says a more recent survey last year shows that number is now 66%. Regardless, Richards wrote on X, quote, white supremacy comes in all forms. Here's Democratic
the fragility. I'm just for white supremacy comes in all forms.
City Council member Oswald Felice talking about the DSA.
This is a city that is very diverse, and any group that doesn't have the diversity that we generally see in every part of the city, whether it's in our schools or in our neighborhoods, I think that on its own raise this many questions.
Okay, so I've received a question quite consistently here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. Why I use kind of like a Bruce from Family Guy voice whenever I'm kind of making fun of like the left, and I'm kind of feminizing the voice just a little bit there. It's to make fun of individuals like this. To make it clear, I'm making fun of people like this who all they care about. And again, do I think it's funny he's criticizing Mamdani and splitting the Democratic Party? Yep, I think it's hilarious. However, why do I bring this up? The feminist left-wing guy, whether you're James Tallarico or Beto O'Rourke or Pete Buttigieg or whoever this city councilman is, who's like, I don't know if we've actually talked about how friendly we need to be, and we need to make sure we count all of the boys and the girls and the colors and the genders and the letters and all that. That's retarded. You don't have to do that. And of course, what we're seeing right now is a reckoning in that particular facet for the party. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff that's also going on in the country and in New York. May I remind each and every one of you right now, no one's really reporting this, just as no one's reporting the socialist autonomous zone in Madison, Wisconsin. We'll get to that. In New York right now, just got people openly going after and attacking, doing a little assault and battery with federal law enforcement. It's exciting. It's good times. Good fun. Good for the kids. Now, by the way, why is that just censor beep, just one long stretch? Because the only actual stuff that you're seeing here is just a bunch of people chanting F this and F ICE and F that over and over and over and over. If we chopped that up, someone in the audience would think we're speaking to them in Morse code. And I just don't think that schizos really should be encouraged in any given audience. All right. I do want to cover some of the Madison, Wisconsin insanity because setting up an autonomous zone, this is according to a friend of mine, Daniel Buck. He's actually who co-founded Chalkboard Review with me. We're going to get into that, and then Francesca Hong. Radio crew, welcome back from the commercial break. We've got just a little bit out of the Midwest because tomorrow we've got the Michigan primary. Tomorrow we've got the Arizona primary. Very, very exciting stuff. And so I want to dive into a little bit of Michigan, a little bit of Wisconsin, and a little bit of violence because, you know, it's Michigan and Wisconsin. So first and foremost, over in Michigan, Abdul El Sayed, he is running against Haley Stevens, the kind of Chris Farley, weird Biden morph him up Power Ranger, who's just a very, very strange person. She's lost some momentum. She gained a little bit of momentum because Abdul El Sayed is not a man of the people. His wife is a landlord in the Middle East, and he's never been a real doctor. He's just pretended to be one in a classroom kind of stuff. He's, you know, and also he's a socialist, but don't call him a socialist. He just wants universal health care and the nationalization of assets and to abolish the police and immigration customs enforcement. It's kind of a mess. Well, it doesn't matter because the Dearborn crew has answered. They've put down the stones. They've picked up the ballots. And here's Harry Enton over from CNN's polling analysis crew. This man's going into tomorrow's election in the primaries with all kinds of momentum.
Yeah, I think that tomorrow Abdullah Sayed will deliver the biggest blow so far against the establishment of the Democratic Party because he is the heavy favorite going into tomorrow. Just take a look at the prediction market odds. Okay, chance to be the Michigan Democratic Senate nominee, Abdullah Sayed. Look at this. He's up to a 98% chance according to the Kalshi prediction markets, way up like a rocket compared to where he was on April 3rd when he was just a 28% chance just a few months ago. The bottom line is this. You look at all the data that is out there. Abdul Sayed is the very heavy favorite going in tomorrow. And of course, he is backed by a lot of folks on the left wing of the Democratic Party. And at this point, as I said at the beginning, he looks tomorrow to deliver the biggest blow so far against the establishment wing.
Now, this is where things get rather funny. So according to the most recent EPIC Epic MRA poll from 7/24 to 7/31, Mike Rogers, who lost to Alyssa Slotkin by 0.3%. He's now running in this Senate election against either Abdul El Sayed or Haley Stevens. In the polling, and we've seen this is a consistent trend here, Haley Stevens, as a Democrat, is up 44 to 42% on Mike Rogers. However, Mike Rogers would theoretically beat Abdul El-Sayed 46-43. So this is a very forward primary candidate, lackluster. Now, why am I relying on these polls and these flips? Because so far, everyone's citing special elections or growing trends or prediction markets. Oh, Kalshi said this and that. There have been zero polling upsets going into any election that we have seen in the special election category so far this year. Not a single upset. So going into the election season, if we see this polling trend forward, it's not really going to be looking good for Abdul El-Sayed. And by the way, this isn't just a thing with Abdul. This is also a thing with Michigan. Before we get to kind of that broader Michigan narrative here, I want to talk about the latest scandal for Abdul. Because I told you, whether it's Graham Plattner, of course, I've seen John Fetterman of Pennsylvania call Abdul the Pontiac Plattner, little nod to Detroit there, or whether it's Troy Jackson, these socialist candidates are just chock full of scandals. So according to a Washington Free Beacon financial analysis, and then reported on by our Daily Signal's Pedro Rodriguez, Horace Sheffield III, a prominent Detroit-based pastor and radio host who said he would put his full force behind Democrat Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed, received $75,000 from the candidate's campaign beforehand, according to this Washington Free Beacon review of finance records. Ecumenical Ministers Alliance, the pastor's nonprofit that Sheffield incorporated in 2010, didn't respond to the Daily Signal's request for comment about the 10 different $7,500 payments from October 21st to June 1st for political consulting from Abdul El-Sayed's campaign. Now, I'm going to step away very quickly here because there's some other interesting bits and pieces here that Pedro found on his own. I'm a radio host, and I'm on Spectrum Air TV as well, some community cable stations around the country. I have done some influence work before, politically, through for example, the Ministry of Truth account. You can see the logo for that up over my shoulder here. For a couple of various groups that I like, that I have allied with before. I really like some of the work that they've been doing. And that wasn't for campaigns or candidates. And the reason is, if it is ever for a campaign or a candidate, I would be in all of the trouble on earth. All of the trouble. Because we are on here out of first WIBC out of Indianapolis, or whether we're out of Aurora or Little Rock, or in Pennsylvania to New York down to Florida, any of the radio stations that we're on, if I'm on Spectrum Air and I am taking political consultancy fees and then having the guy on, oh, sweet mother of mercy, that is a whole host of financial issues. In fact, we are so intent here on TKC on dotting our I's and crossing our T's with every dot and tittle attached, that I make sure that producer Lou sends out booking requests to each and any time we have a person on the show who is running in an election. Boy, I tell you what, Lou is sending out invitations to the other candidates like it's Charlie Brown sending out Valentines. So interesting here. Now, also of note, Pedro sent this over to me, kind of his analysis on what is a very, very shady candidate, and I'm going to have to hurry here before the radio crew has to head out. Pedro says, look, I don't want to say that this particular pastor is a con artist, because we could say that, Abdul wasn't exactly surging in the support from black leaders in the community, according to, again, a Politico article. He says, quote, but his pattern of taking money from unpopular Middle Eastern candidates in exchange for an endorsement to boost his turnout among voters, especially black voters, certainly qualifies him to be one, a con artist. In 2018, this same pastor lost his role at another radio station for taking tens of thousands of dollars from Shri Tanadar, the wig and the eyebrows guy. Huh? Also, he's, I believe, lost his he's lost his license. Yeah, so that's a little pay to pray kind of situation here. So excellent work to both the Washington Free Beacon and the Daily Signal's own Pedro Rodriguez for that particular support. Now, I do enjoy this, quote, Lord, help this man win, quote, said Sheffield, to which El-Sayed responded, quote, you can't buy authenticity, end quote. Oh, really? Can't buy it. Okay. Radio crew, we'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to continue on the live stream. Lots more news. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Goodness gracious. Now, this does bring us over to, again, the Wisconsin situation. So what's going on in Wisconsin right now? Well, it's also almost time for the primary election. We've got Michigan and Arizona tomorrow. The Michigan election closes at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. for those areas observing Central Time, which means that some of those up in the UP, I believe, check with your local authority. This is my speculation here. I know that the mainland Mitten, Michigan people, they are going to have an 8 p.m. Eastern poll closing time. And I believe some of the UP might close at 9 because I think the UP is in Central Time. Yeah, I mean, I spent my time up near Dunbar, Wisconsin. That's right over the border from Iron Mountain. And yeah, they're on Central Time. Now, in the meantime, I said Wisconsin's election, it's next week. And Francesca Hong has gone from polling at 2% as the socialist candidate and an aggressive socialist campaign as well. She's now gone from number 2 to essentially being one of the last ones standing. And in the meantime, well, you know what? I don't want to spoil it for you. Here is her big rally push for what all of the Democrats are trying to do right now, which is just claiming that they're really running against Donald Trump.
And our money and our power cannot be given away to the wealthy, but driven towards the things that make each and every one of our lives better. We will defeat Donald Trump and drive a stake through the heart of fascism.
Gonna drive a stake through the heart of fascism. Just, okay. Cheesy, good. I like a socialist that's a bit cheesy. It's about the only thing I like about the socialist, that is. Now, again, she has been seen doing some exciting stuff. Again, there was the situation in which an officer shot an individual, wielding a knife, who was trying to allegedly break into vehicles and then ran away from cops through people's backyards. So she went downtown in Madison over on State Street, off to a smaller side street near where there used to be a really, really good place to get coffee and crepes. That's not important. That's just a little fun fact here. Anyway, and then chanted that the officers were guilty for murder. So the socialists did what they always have done. They have now set up an autonomous zone. So you've heard of Chaz. Now get ready for Maz. This is according to Daniel Bucky, and I founded Chalkboard Review together back in the day. He is in charge of the Conservative Education Reform Network over at the American Enterprise Institute. He's a heck of a guy. Here is his video of Maz from Wisconsin today.
Here I am, Madison's autonomous zone. Don't let Marxists rule your city, kids.
As I'm here in the autonomous zone, don't let Marxists rule your city, kids. Absolutely correct. So we got all the tents. It's exciting. It's the autonomous zone. So it's just incredible. And in protest, thrilling stuff. Now, again, this is the same Francesca Hong, who, again, very for abolishing the police. Remember, her campaign came forward and said that she's never said this at all, ever.
Abolishing policing is one segment of reforming and reevaluating our criminal justice system. Using those funds using the funds after we've eliminated the access to eliminating funds for the police needs to be put into rehabilitation services, mental health services for those in prison, making sure that we are looking at decreasing our prison populations.
I love it. So there's kind of a trend, and I don't care if people say that this is mean or inappropriate. It appears that those over on the left, the far left, let's say the socialist left, those who are rather Marxian in their worldviews, if they are a guy and they are very Marxist, then they will go from, the longer they talk, they will go from just being very vague, universal health care and friendliness towards the worker, to like the full communist and like the violent revolutionary kind, where it's like, it's time to shoot all of the Christians and the Jews and re-education camps and money for me and not for thee and seize the means of production and sigh, I'm like that kind of crap. The ladies over on the left all seem to be a variation of AOC on the super progressive left. I'm talking about like the socialist crew. They start talking and they understand like the vibes and like, I just want like loving and caring like vibes, like it's like freedom and packaged in an enigma. And then when they keep talking, there's just nothing going on between both ears. Francesca Hong is the very, very, very same brand of socialist as Claire Alvarez out in New York. And then, of course, AOC, like the same brand. Let them talk long enough and they'll try to tell you an accounting firm from Wisconsin set a river on fire in Cleveland down in West Virginia. Because, Cleveland, Ohio, West Virginia, and accounting firms with its drinkable air. My favorite. That kind of crew. Now, the guys on the left, though, Hassan Piker, who, again, behind him has like a newspaper article like with 9/11 on it, like behind him. That Hassan Piker, the open Marxist who dresses like Mao, he's also all the way out there trying to campaign as hard as he can for El Sayed and for Francesca Hong. So first of all, here he is with El Sayed talking about how, like, white bros are supporting them, but also we don't like the white bros.
Because I've been seeing, in Michigan, I've been seeing a lot of clips of like white dude bros that are so stoked to vote for you in the fucking Democratic primaries. Like, these are people.
Sorry about his language. This might get just a smidgen spicy because Hassan has no filter.
People that normally never vote at all, let alone in a primary, let alone for a Democrat.
Yeah, we can win these folks back.
Yeah.
We just have to invest in a politics that gets them back.
Okay, so the argument that they're making is that there's a bunch of white dudes that say they're like not going to vote for you and stuff and that you're not going to win. And then he says, well, we can win them back. We just have to spend enough money on them. Yeah, no. Tom Steyer tried this approach. He outspent everybody by a landslide in California. Did it win a bunch of guys to electing him in the primary? Nope. Did not happen. Elon Musk spent a ton of money in Wisconsin to get Supreme Court justices elected. Did that drive a ton of people out to vote? Nope, didn't happen. Money itself doesn't win an election. Abdul El-Sayed doesn't actually have anything substantive other than that I'm a Democrat and I'm going to stab the establishment. So James Carville, again, over on the left, Bill Clinton's campaign guru, makes it clear, look, the party split is happening and it's happening. I don't like it. And also these young stupid idiots, they come out here and they just wanna tear things down, and that's not how the Democrat Party wants to go. Here's James Carville saying, I don't want to be in the same party as this Hassan Piker. Exciting stuff.
So where should Democrats draw the line on this stuff?
Whatever Scott Galloway says, I'll believe it. I think that's...
Whatever Scott Galloway says, I'm bald.
He's one of the smartest, most cogent, brilliant analyst there is. And I'm not sure what to understand what Mamdani's doing, but to talk about the larger Democratic Party post the election in Michigan going forward, I am not going to be in the same party with Hassan Piker. I can tell you that right now. If he becomes a...
I have two standing bets going with viewers. Number one is I do not actually believe that the Senate is going to hold Fauci in contempt. If they do hold him in contempt, I will wear a Minnesota United soccer jersey on the stream. And I'll tell you what, if by the midterm election, you do not see James Carville saying, you gotta vote for the Democrats, even though I don't like Hassan Piker, even though I don't like Zohran Mamdani, you gotta vote for him because the alternative is Trump and he's just awful and he's fat and I don't like it. Yep, it is staying down. Folks, I am sorry that the stream has dropped as much as it has tonight. It's very strange. I apologize for that. If we do not actually see James Carville at this point, or I should say between now and the November elections, coming out and saying, oh, you got to support the Democrats anyway, despite all of this, I will wear a Chicago Cubs hat on the stream. So I'll be suffering there. That's my bet for you. Now, of course, Hassan Piker and El Sayed, they're all about guys like James Carville leaving. They're for it. They are all kinds of happy about it.
And it has only snowballed. It has only continued. There was a documentary that came out on CNN last night. Now James Carville's talking about leaving the party. We got John Fetterman, James Carville fantasizing about leaving the party. I'm like, you're sweetening the deal.
You know what's really interesting? Like our party, if you look at what happened with Trump, you had a whole bunch of like center-right people realize that they had no home in the party that they destroyed. And then they all came to our party and trying to tell us what our party ought to be. And then you think about like James Carville, I'm like, bro, you architected the complete right-wing like assent to neoliberalism in '96.
Yeah.
And
no,
I don't know. Like my point is,
this state is a swing state because of the machinations of the Clinton era of politics.
So the argument being making is actually it's the Bill Clinton Democrats that screwed over Michigan. Good luck. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I've said this before. This is kind of a classic thing that I've said here on the show, and really just in general philosophy. The young socialists, the Marxists, they always go way too far, way too fast. They get a little bit of momentum, and they decide that the whole country's ready for it right here, right now. Boom. Pack the Supreme Court. You know what? Abolish the Senate and seize all of the corporations and no private property. Only Chaz-Maz tent structures, all this crap. And it turns out the rest of the country is not here for that. Now, if they'd wait a good 20 years, kind of like you're seeing with the Islamic migration do, where they move into an area, according to the Muslim Brotherhood documents, again, consistently found and illustrated and backed and reiterated and such. I'm just going to make it quite crystal clear with you folks. I just don't see this current iteration of the left having the massive year that they think they're going to have in the midterms. Now, does that mean that Republicans are going to clean up in the midterms? No, it does not. It does not. Now, this brings me over to some of the polling stuff. And I do promise that there is a very, very important point on the polling. So if the YouTube stream doesn't drop us aggressively, we can actually dive into this. So the polling suggests some very, very interesting things. So I've seen a lot of prediction markets, and you guys know that I'm not like the world's biggest fan of the prediction market, saying Democrats have like a 99% chance, a 71% chance. I'm looking at the actual data coming out, and what I'm seeing is that no one is excited to go vote in the midterms. No one. Again, going to vote is like going to the DMV, or if you're one of 3 other states, the BMV. And it's awful, and it's annoying, and it sucks, and it's not fun for anyone. And people right now don't really want to go vote in the midterms. Again, President Trump's approval rating is doing its little roller coaster kind of downward. And it's really independent of a lot of Republicans in Congress. Democrats' approval rating is also trending downwards, and they're the ones running in the election. But we're also seeing, we talked about this last week, but I wanted to bring this up as well. This is Jason Corley over from some of the kind of more structural voting crews here. Michigan's long-term Democrat advantage has nearly vanished. The blue wall, guys, it's gone. Even in a D+4 to D+7 national environment, the 2026 Senate race still projects as anything from a narrow Republican edge to a modest Democratic win. It's the exact kind of tight range that early polling is now showing. And that brings us over to the pinky promises, where like Democrats are totally supposed to overperform here, and Republicans are supposed to perform very poorly, if at all. The issue is that they still have Democrats holding really, really well in the blue. That's just not what the polls show. Abdul El-Sayed is very likely to win tomorrow. Again, we'll cover that election here. However, I just don't see Abdul El-Sayed picking up really heavily against Mike Rogers. I don't see this idea that Ohio is going to pitch very heavily to the blue. I'm not really sure that I'm seeing that Tallarico is going to be able to pull a major surgeful amount of success regarding Ken Paxton. Now, I don't know enough about the Iowa Senate election yet to tell you very, very much about it. I'm kind of looking into it because I'm looking at some of the different trends here. There is a 50+1 2026 congressional forecast. And we get into like simulation stuff, and I hate simulation stuff. I don't care for it. I don't care for it when it's foreign policy and it's like, we ran 27 simulated wars and found that China would kill the United States. I hate that. And I say that because some of my colleagues whom I love very dearly have done these things. I don't care for them, because the issue with simulations like this is that all of the academic think tankers believe that they're God, and they run these simulations. And I keep looking at the last couple of elections in the United States. Now, the polling has very rarely, in the last series of special elections, has rarely been wrong. In fact, it's currently on a winning streak. But the big political simulations over the last couple of years for like, how elections are going to go, did not happen. Didn't happen. I was looking at all the Kamala Harris wins 91 out of 100 times with this, with the Senate and the House, and it didn't happen. Now they're like, we've run this simulation and it shows Democrats winning both the House and the Senate. I'm looking for the data here. I'm looking for the data. I'm serious. I'm diving through what particular pivot points are suggesting that Americans are outraged with Republicans. So far, what I'm seeing is that Americans do not like the Gulf War II electric boogaloo. It's not over yet. They don't care for that. So Iran has also fired either drones or missiles at a vessel 20 nautical miles northeast of Al-Khasab in Oman. So that's right on the Strait of Hormuz. And again, President Trump said anytime that Iran shoots a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the U.S. is going to destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. If the president follows through and wraps this up and comes away with a win, you're going to see a big shift. If you start to see a huge surge economically, the president's going to reap the rewards of it. But right now, the idea that Democrats are going to be able to get counter momentum to get people to come out and vote against Trump, that I'm not seeing it. I'm serious. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing Republicans demoralized and not wanting to come out to vote. That's true. I'm seeing independents that want to stay home. But so far, the Republican base and the Democrat base, and like the Democrat base is going to be really, really energized and the Republican base is going to stay home. I'm just not, there's still way too much that's a toss-up, which makes it a really weird midterm for sure. But alas, there's a couple of other things that we will have to touch on as well here on that side of things. So I don't necessarily want to get into too much elsewise on the news side tonight because I'm nervous that the stream quality has just dropped you guys so many times tonight, and I hate that. We're going to try to figure out what's going on. Your guess is as good as mine. However, I will take just a couple of over the weekend mail time questions. Why? Well, because, I don't know, it sounds a little bit fun and you guys have a couple of really good ones. So, mail time. Mail time. Mail time.
On the Tony Kinnett Cast.
All right. So let's dive into a couple of these big details. To get us a question over on mail time, the best way to do that is to head down to the Discord in the description. And that way you can get that stuff to me again, just because, a lot of the, a lot of the various issues that we're currently looking at affecting the YouTube stream, we might lose your question in the meantime. So having it in front of the Discord with us, that makes it a lot easier. Now, there is one YouTube question I did want to answer right away. I did see a very kind, like $20 super chat from Sandy, and then a follow-up $1 super chat. That's very, very kind, and you don't have to do that, but we really appreciate it. And Donna, thanks for the $2 super chat again. You guys don't need to do anything that. We really appreciate it, though. From Patricia, she said, hey, didn't a leader from another Middle East country beg Trump not to destroy Iran? Yeah, I mean, that's Qatar. The Saudis have been a little nervous about it. Realistically, though, mostly just Qatar is kind of begging. Now, the Trump administration favors Qatar economically. Now, is that a good decision? No, but that is the way that it is. And so if there is an Achilles heel to the United States foreign policy regarding the Gulf states, it would be Qatar. That hasn't changed. My gosh, Flora, $20 super chat. Guys, it's been a rough night on the show. Like, I don't know why we have about 81,000 views so far and that there have been about 7,500, 8,000 concurrents the whole night. The quality's been awful. I have no idea why you, I mean, I'm very, very appreciative. Forgive me for being skeptical. I try not to buy into our hype. I'm just grateful that you guys are here. So thank you for being so kind to us tonight, despite all of the crazy issues we've been having. Okay, from Greg GH. I'm still waiting for you to cite factual evidence of widespread voter fraud. Oh wait, you can't because it doesn't exist. Okay, I've said this before, but it's really worth claiming yet again here. It is not a good idea now or forever to suggest that a law should or should not be enforced based on how many times it occurs. Murder and rape are two crimes that occur very little compared to the other crimes in the United States. Yet even in areas where rape never occurs, rape is still illegal. Just because a crime may not be happening every single diggity damn day doesn't mean it's not illegal. And I'm sorry, also, right now, as we understand from the State Department, as well as other countries' detailed records of diplomatic interference, so like the more state side of espionage, or in the criminal act of war espionage series, there are countries that are trying to interfere in the United States election process. So making sure that things are more secure is important. Also, Americans have lost trust in institutions. So creating things that are more secure allow Americans to restore trust in things. Now, you'll never hear me make an argument like this ever again, so pay attention. The only great argument for the Food and Drug Administration's founding is Upton Sinclair's Nick Shirley style report. That's a phrase I never thought I'd say. That the Chicago meat processing plants, really from Chicago all the way, or excuse me, I should say from Milwaukee down through Kenosha, Chicago all the way to Gary, were very unsanitary. And it was getting a lot of people sick. And so reporting those things got regulations put in place that restored trust in the American system for food administration and created a system where if you break these laws, I will take out your kneecaps. For whether or not those are good or not standards, just because you don't see it happening right in front of you doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's ridiculous. It's like telling your kids that the wind doesn't exist because there's a day where you don't feel it or see it. Okay, that's not how that works. And again, we have seen cases of voter fraud. We have. New Jersey's an excellent case, whether it's by accident or on purpose. The reason that we have standards does not just include those with criminal intent. It also includes preventing accidents. Hundreds, I was just talking to the Daily Signal editorial team about this on Friday. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of state elections around the country, state legislative positions. So we're talking representatives, we're talking senators, that are decided by single digit votes. Single digit. Some of them, one vote decides the whole election. More security matters. It's not a question as to, you don't hear me repeating the president, there's widespread fraud all over the place. There's lots of fraud. Detroit and Maricopa County, Fox News called it 3 years ago, the election's tomorrow. Like, I don't usually echo that rhetoric because it isn't even related to the conversation. It has nothing to do with it. Whether or not something should or should not be illegal has nothing to do with the frequency of the crime. It has to do with the crime. I mean, very, very, very basic civics instruction there, just to... So, all right. Now, and other people are chiming in with examples. Again, there are excellent examples. Again, and that's just for yours truly here. I like to keep those kinds of things, up straight so that you guys know exactly what my logic is to build from the ground up, which is what I try to do. All right, so let's get into some of the other mail time questions tonight. Quite a few of them. Why does the president, this is from Indy Cards 11, why does the president keep falling for this stuff with Iran? We haven't had any deals with them like 4 or 5 times previously before they end up tolling or launching missiles at ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And that was at noon today, so really good timing because they ended up doing a bunch of that stuff again this evening. The answer is that there will come a short-term political capital expenditure. That's the answer. And not only that, depending on the action the president takes, if the U.S. uses troops to take some of the islands in the Strait of Hormuz, American troops will almost assuredly lose their lives. Now, that is a much smaller price to pay compared to letting the Iranian regime continue to attempt to kill American troops from our various branches over the next years and decades, because you can't moderate with people who chant death to America every single day, not to mention killing 50,000 of their own. Also, the short-term political backlash of like another school getting hit accidentally. Oh, 150. The number keeps going up every time they talk about the story. Originally, it was like 100. Or no, originally it was 72. Then it was 100. Then it was 112. And then like every girl that's been on a missing watch list in the last 18 years was apparently killed at the school. It's like they're writing off hand receipts in like a downed Apache. So anyway, the president's just going to have to actually go through and take it out. Trump doesn't like going through the grit because it's hard. It might take a couple of weeks. Now, the let him cook thing does work, but it will actually take some buckling down and telling a lot of the isolations to shut up and just plowing through. That's the answer. I don't know how else to tell you. There is no other actual way out of this. There's not. You don't stop an infection by signing a deal with it. So, there's an agree or disagree question, but it's like 2 paragraphs. I don't think I can get through it. Holstein says, how many times has Trump issued last chance warnings? Again, that's the same thing. He really wants to believe there's a deal. I think there's also some allies that are kind of begging, please kind of a thing here. I think he wants a combined effort. I just don't know if he's going to get one. I don't have any necessarily, well, I think we already answered that one. If China is supporting Iran, then why aren't we pulling all student visas and shipping those Chinese citizens home? I have a pretty simple take when it comes to China. China is very clearly trying to destabilize United States interests around the globe. I do not care about any other argument other than what is best for the American people. I don't care whether there's like, well, according to international law and the laws of friendship and magic, I don't care about that. I don't. Well, the United States, well, I was like, well, the United States has been rather evil on the global stage. I don't care about those retarded brain dead arguments. The United States must reign supreme. And in order for her to remain supreme, this means that when another country acts in a manner that is antithetical to the aims of the United States or is antagonistic to the aims of the United States, so there's your ethical and there's your action argument, then the United States needs to take steps to put harm to the other country. So for China, who is again getting a lot from IP theft in the United States due to their students being here, they're allowing American institutions to be taken up by Chinese students who are trained with American innovation. The communist Chinese do not innovate at all. Yes, they should all be shipped home. And yeah, also all Chinese nationals here in the United States that aren't immigrants, unless there's a political asylum argument, should then be sent home. Don't care. Why? Because if China's acting against us in any way at any time, then no, we don't have to play any game. Well, that would be really detrimental to the economy. And this brings me to my last point for the evening, I think. There are a lot of people that have, and including some in my own family, who have made the case to me, but Tony, we gotta win the midterm. We gotta win. Tony, we gotta win. Here's my take on this. I do not believe that I sent anyone to Congress, that I sent anyone to the White House so that they could then turn around and go, well, what do the moderate voters in New York think? I don't care. I sent them to the White House, to the Department of Homeland Security, to the Department of Justice, the Department of State, the Department of Education, to do the things that I ask for them to do. That's what I asked them to do these things. I want the Department of Education closed and reduced to an Office of Education covering statistics like it used to do. I want the State Department to cut all the USAID crap, and they've done so. I want foreign nationals who are acting against the interests of the United States, even if they're just here protesting America, to be sent back home. If I'm going to pay for federal benefits, then they should at least be going to Americans. If we're going to go bankrupt because Social Security is insolvent and Medicare and Medicaid aren't working correctly, then I would at least like, as the ship goes down, I would at least like the people on my boat who are supposed to be on my boat to be given the benefits that are sinking the boat, at the very least. Additionally, I'm sorry, trying to appease has never worked politically, ever. George H.W. Bush did this with Iraq, and it not only hurt him short-term, it hurt him long-term. It's why he lost the election to get reelected to Clinton. That is why George H.W. Bush lost. And there are a bunch of kind of the neocon academic class who've gone, he deserved to win. He didn't finish through. He did his compassionate conservatism argument, and it sucked. George H.W. Bush, the same thing. Case after case after case. Either do the thing or don't do the thing. Riding the fence sounds really great when you're with Hathaway GOP strategies in Chicago, but it actually doesn't do anything other than that at all. So, from Athena Aris, no question. Well, okay, I'll let this slide this one time. Just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate the humor. It helps me get the news without being so bombarded with negativity. I try to be kind of humorous about the news because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't change. Kind of Ecclesiastes, nothing new under the sun. It's all kind of the same. Now, there are things that do, in fact, get my goat and get me rather unhappy. But I try to just laugh at all of this because if you do laugh at it, it keeps a lot of things in perspective. There are some people who truly believe that everything is at the hands of this shadowy cabal who's painting the sky and your clothes and your children. And they're going to kill us all. And also, the Jews. And I just don't think that, first of all, that works. And also, yeah, I don't go in for that. I'd rather just laugh at it. And you know what? More than often, I end up being right because I don't take it too seriously. When you get so emotionally invested in something that you're like, the Save America Act has every chance in the world to pass. It's going to happen, guys. No, it's not. No, it's not. I would rather just tell you which senators are standing in the way of the Save America Act. And then, if you want to, you can put pressure on them if you want the Save America Act. Now, personally, as a Hoosier, I do. So do you know what I did? I got a hold of Jim Banks and I got a hold of Todd Young and said, hey, Tony Kinnett, not the radio host, not the political pundit, not the devilishly handsome Baptist from the Midwest. I want you to do this thing. That's what I did. That's my goal. And also, I think that people are ridiculous these days, and it's just kind of funny. It's kind of funny to watch them freak out about things. One question. I'm not sure if the live stream cut this out. Thomas Massie has started a bill that passed, gave Morocco the clear to send people to Ceuta. Yeah, that's just not true. I think we covered that early on in the show. I'm not sure. But that bill did not, in fact, get passed. It made it out of the House, and then it got shut down in the Senate, which means it was amended and sent back to the House. It didn't happen. The whole, it told Morocco to do it. No. Again, we have on file, as the New York Times has reported, I know this is really going to hurt Thomas Massie and Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and probably Candace Owens, that crew. They're making the case that, well, really, it's actually the Jews in the United States that's pressuring them. The New York Times has the recordings that says that, no, it's Moroccan police that say, get out of our country, just go into Ceuta, go into Spain. That's it. A shorter version from Steve. What a pal. He said, agree or disagree here. Since the Democrats are now dominated by women and high estrogen men, should Trump just tell them, I think you're overreacting and you should calm down? No, he shouldn't. He should, in private meetings, tell certain people that. But that kind of a strategy only works if you are actually going to be the train at full steam ahead, going as fast as you can. The administration began with a maverick strategy, so do the maverick strategy. The idea that now we're going to kind of back off and pussyfoot, that ain't the move. And also the same thing with the tariffs. The tariffs right now, terrible idea. Awful. Didn't work the first time. Now, it wasn't awful the first time, but it didn't work the first time either. It didn't. All of the magical things I was promised by Peter Navarro didn't happen. We couldn't even tariff China. China's like the only one of them worth tariffing. I mean, I'm happy with the H-1B visa slice right now. That's good. But if that lasts, I'll be surprised. I'll put it that way. I'll take one last question here. Will the socialists, Marxists, and communists be able to shut down prisons? And if they happen, what would actually happen if they did? So the answer is they're probably not really going to be able to. Right now, the way that the structure in the United States is set up, for example, Mamdani trying to shut down Rikers Island, they'll be shuttled to other prisons elsewhere across the state and maybe the country. What they really want is it just to be released. And they just want to hand, again, AKs to those who are in prison. And then they want that to be their private army to come after you. This is why you see some Democrat leaders. It's not Kathy Hochul, is it? I think it's Kathy Hochul who wants to restore voting rights to a bunch of felons. It's either Kathy Hochul or Gretchen Whitmer. I can't remember which one. Maybe it's Spanberger. It's one of the three. But anywho, that's what they want. I don't think they're going to do it. Now, what's the actual thing to happen if that were to occur? You would have a bunch of really awful violence roaming the country. We've seen this in other countries. But I don't think that America is necessarily ready for that yet. There are a lot of people running in these elections who are running in primaries. They do not realize how much Americans do not care for that at all. So that's kind of my take. Tariffs were for U.S. income for decades, not federal income tax. So the answer to the answer to kind of like the counter on the tariff side of things really boils down to one thing and one thing only. It didn't lower the costs. Didn't. And like the temporary, for a while it's going to restore. Now, again, here's one thing that the tariffs did. The threat of tariffs helped restore some manufacturing for the future. Other than that, the tariffs genuinely, a lot of other countries said, I'm not moving. And so then Americans just started paying higher prices for things. And then prices don't usually come down after they go up ever. It was not a smart move. It just wasn't a good deal. There's a reason that Republicans aren't Bill Clinton. I know Trump has liked tariffs forever. That's who he is. He wanted to try it. People have wanted to try it forever. It doesn't work. Sorry. It's not a thing. We tried it. And then the Supreme Court ruled he can't. Now, the president can do economic embargoes, and that would be a different kind of economic pain. But we're like, Madagascar and Switzerland and France and the UK and Canada. And like, why not China? If we're actually going to see what it does, which like right now we're seeing with Iran, like the economic blockade destroying the regime, well then, you know, why not actually move forward and go after China first and then say, oh, hey, it worked. Look at all this stuff. And that's just not what happened. We did this like, you know, we did this like weird halfway sort of thing, and it didn't do anything special. So, all right, folks, it's 8:33 p.m., August 3rd, Monday. I know there's been a lot of tech issues this evening, so really appreciate all of y'all putting up with us through it. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, hopefully with a better connection. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. If you feel so privy, again, head over to youtube.com/Tony Kinnett Cast. And yeah, we've got some really, really cool stuff coming there real quick. Here pretty soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.